but we have our Florida State analyst here. He is Nile Lawrence-Stample on the heels of a 31-17 victory, Florida State over Alabama. I am still not surprised. I'm still totally shocked by what I saw on Saturday.
Man, that was we are here, right? Number 14. We are here. I'm shocked too. I'm not, I wouldn't say I'm shocked, but I am pleasantly surprised at how well we looked.
Before we get to some of the particulars, you played on teams that won all the time, that had NFL players. You won a national championship under Jimbo Fisher. You and I have been talking about this for the last couple of years when they were performing well and winning 19 in a row, then the disaster of a year ago. But everyone they got rid of, players, coaches, you name it, how were they able to turn this around when it comes to things like effort, desire? I mean, look at all the defensive guys getting hats on balls. That offensive line just blowing back Alabama. I mean, every phase of the game, when you talk about those type of issues, Florida State was the better team.
Yeah, I think you fixed that by realizing the issue. And I don't know if Norvell really realized the issue until it came at him with a 2-10 season. I think he honed in on what it was. Obviously, he made a lot of sacrifices that he needed to make. And I think the sense of urgency from all the coaching staff, him putting his hand and figuring out what's wrong, what happened, and that's kind of the result that we saw. It was amazing.
Herb Hand and the offensive line. I mean, we talked about it last week. When you bring in 4 new guys, the assumption is going to be there's going to be issues. There's going to be problems. It was a clean game, only 4 total penalties. You run for 230 yards. You hand the ball off 49 times against Alabama.
Yeah, I think there's so much to it. Obviously, the offensive line played really well because I think that determination is important to realize, as well as these guys have played, right? You have a brand new offensive line. Making them cohesive is one thing, but they're all ball players. They all know how to play the game. But I think Gus had a lot to do with that. There was so many different variables that allowed things to open up, and our guys executed.
Yeah. All right, so let's look at the big picture here. Now that you bring in a guy like Herb Hand and you bring in Gus Malzahn, who was fearless in this game, how about on 4th and 1 from their own 36? No motion, no nothing, just man football, and they give it to Williams, and he goes for 4 yards on Florida State's side of the field.
Yeah, that's a gutsy move, but we've been moving the ball. We're moving the ball. The guys upstairs telling them, put Roydell in and run that rock. Like, that has got to happen, and it showed itself. And when you have that opportunity to trust your guys, they went with it.
All right, so, and then Tony White on the defense. So I know it's only one game, but just the change now when you look at it's Mike Norvell as the head coach. It's Mike Norvell as the CEO, overseeing everything. He's going to allow Gus to call his game. He allows Tony White to call his game. What do you see changing now with the head coach and Florida State as he oversees everything instead of, dealing with Alex Atkins and trying to call a game?
What I think a good point and what we're going to see is that going into this Alabama game, you're kind of questioning, right? You've brought on some new coaching staff. You have to be able to trust them. And once they've kind of established themselves, I think Norvell could even do a better job of being able to oversee everything. There's no having to now micromanage. Now we just need to fix the wrinkles. So I think Norvell's probably in the best situation he could be, being able to see an overall picture of what's going on, because there's no real major issues right now. It's just kind of honing in.
All right. As a former player, we're talking with Nile Lawrence-Stample, won a national title with Florida State. And also played defensive tackle for the Cleveland Browns in the National Football League. I know the game has changed a little bit quite a bit since you played. What's your understanding after Thomas Castellanos calls out Bama, backs it up? Now you walk into the locker room with all of these new players, many of which were not part of the debacle of a year ago. How does the mindset now change of this Florida State football team after making the statement after the words were said?
I don't know if it changes much because Thomas Castellanos, he's been so consistent. He's been so from the beginning, obviously making that call. But I think at this point, the locker room feels probably the same exact way, if not just fully bought in right now, just because he has been doing that from the beginning. He looked completely cool, calm, and collected. I just don't see any of the guys seeing him any differently, just more or less putting some more respect on his name.
You know, one thing I loved is that the offensive line was so much improved from the last couple of years, but they found ways to get guys with speed the football. And we saw that with Danzy. We saw that with Jalen Lucas. I mean, just found ways to get him the ball, and it paid, immediate dividends.
It paid absolute dividends. I think Gus Malzahn dialed in an absolute clinic when it came to not only putting our guys in the best situations, but that snap count. That first quarter, he ran that snap count like a absolute dream. And I think what you saw was being able to take on that surge and not have the defensive line be kind of on their toes, but be able to kind of manipulate that a little bit. But I like the most that we were able to, one, get our guys in good opportunities and good situations, but be able to have a bunch of fail-safes within the offensive scheme that can get us out of jams, that can get us conversions, that can get the defensive line to either run upfield or to be able to stump them in a way. There was one play the offensive line didn't even move, right? So, and these are happening in regular downs. You see that sometimes on like a goal, you see that sometimes on like a field goal or something like that, but we're seeing this in regular play. I think Gus Malzahn prepared this offense to be absolutely effective in any situation.
Florida State will win at 31-17 over Alabama. Talking Florida State football with our FSU analyst, Nile Lawrence-Stample. Let's get to the defense, and I really want your thoughts on it. But they allow a 17-play, 75-yard drive that takes nearly 8 minutes off the clock to begin the game. Then their second defensive opportunity, they allow a 9-play drive where it's a missed field goal. I mean, Alabama held on to the ball for 15 of the first 18 minutes of this football game. That's a tired defense in Tallahassee, yet they stood up when they needed to most.
Yeah, I think those are the things that you want to see out of your defense. No matter if it was the first drive or the last drive, I still think you saw that intensity and that fire that they played with. Tony White's defense is so unique, and I love it because it allows multiple players to be able to get involved, right? And his defense is made to where you can see guys flash. There was no real standout player other than Earl Little Jr.
Oh, wow.
You had a couple other players that stood out, but you had Blake Nicholson, you had Justin Cryer, you had multiple players get to flash on film. And when you have a balanced defense like that, there's longevity in that. There's long-term success in that, because now we're not relying on one player. We're relying on the defense as a whole.
Now, Lawrence-Stample, our guest, joining us right here on your home of the Jaguars, 92.5 FM, as we talk Florida State, their big victory, 31-17 over Alabama. Don't want to get too picky here because it's an unbelievable win, but I need to see a little bit more out of the defense. I did think that if Simpson had a really good day, this could have been somewhat problematic. Where are you right now with the Florida State defense, and how much better do you believe they can get?
Yeah, and that's one of those things. So I've watched the game a few times, and there's definitely a lot of mistakes. There's a lot of issues. There's a lot of things that I feel like there were more missed assignments, but what you can make up for is effort, right? On my Instagram, anyone follow me on Instagram, follow me on social media. I go into a lot of insight, and I asked a lot of the tribe that's with me, my followers, and I asked them what was the biggest thing that they saw, and it was effort, right? Everyone saw effort, and I think that with effort comes being able to make strides a lot quicker than you can in a regular defense. If you have the effort and determination that Tony White has demanded since the beginning of fall camp, you are going to see this defense increase in productivity every single week. There's no doubt about it. He is demanding it, right? As well as the depth on the defensive line. I was concerned. The Desir twins absolutely are freakish.
Yeah.
It is the motors that we are seeing these guys run with. Daniel Lyons, I could go on and on about some of the playmakers that we saw on Saturday, but I think that Tony White is commanding it. He's demanding it. There's no other choice, right? So I think with that, I think we do see some increase in productivity over time, and we do see the defense be able to really hold out and get us into some good opportunities.
I think it was 24 new Seminoles played. It might have been 26 new Seminoles played on Saturday, including 4 true freshmen. All right, now you got, an opponent that you're supposed to obliterate coming up on Saturday. How important is this, the bye, then the week after, to play opponents of this fashion where you can build depth, where you can bring in some guys who maybe did not get an opportunity against Alabama, or if they did, their snap count was really low. I think you would agree that even with that offensive line, there's not a lot of depth on this Florida State football team right now. You better hope that there's not attrition, there's not injuries. So how important is that for game experience coming up for other guys in the roster?
It is everything. I think East Texas A&M, we're going to see a lot of guys rotate in. We're going to see a lot of different looks, and that's what you want to see. I think we're going to see our guys still be as focused as they need to be because we have the leadership now, right? That's at least what you expect. We have the leadership. But one thing that I attest a lot of our success to when we had that national championship run was the amount of depth that we had and how much playing time. I played maybe 2/4 of the first majority of the season, right? So that depth that's coming onto the field, that is quality reps against number ones that are starters on that team, right? You cannot beat that. That is what creates dynasties, right? That is what creates longevity programs that can actually play on a high level for long periods of time because their backups, their 2, their 3s are coming in 3/4 into maybe a quarter of the game is huge. So I think we're going to see that coming up. I think the AD did a great job kind of building out this schedule because Alabama was nothing but upside. We had nothing to lose going into that game. Now that we've won, the next 2 weeks are going to be crucial for our development in order to go into the rest of our season fresh, healthy, as well as with experience.
Even with big-time leadership a couple of years ago with Jordan Travis, there were times against inferior opponents they weren't ready. Or they weren't fired up, including Northern Alabama. You're down 13-0. So that presents the same question now in 4 days. This is an opponent that you should destroy. Is there any concern that they will not be ready for this game at noon?
It's hard to think that. Obviously, you never know, but it's hard to think that with the leaders that you're seeing emerge, come on the field, the intensity that you saw. It's hard because obviously college football, anybody can get beat on any given day. And that's why a lot of people love watching it. And what we saw on Saturday was them playing to the level of their competition. What we don't want to see is obviously that kind of trickle down. But I think that momentum is there. I think Norvell's hair has been on fire for the last 9 months. I don't see it going anywhere anytime soon because this is his legacy that he's leaving, right? And he's been able to see it turn around so quickly. I would be shocked if we don't see them come out next week looking like a 2013 Florida State.
Anything else you want to add that I missed?
I would say
stick out.
I would say the last thing that I think that I saw that I really, really loved was just the overall execution of the team. Very little penalties. We came out looking ready to go. Obviously, we had a few mishaps on the special teams and a couple other things. But I thought I was really pleasantly surprised on how well put together we looked for having a defensive coordinator that just came in, an offensive coordinator that just came in, and how cohesive everyone looked. It was a beautiful thing to watch.
Rick Ballou here. Thank you so much for watching 1010XL Seminoles on YouTube. Before you click away, please like and subscribe to this channel. Be sure to check out other team-specific channels on 1010XL Network and YouTube.